Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking player housing. We are talking the new War Within patch 11.1, Undermine, and we are talking about how we just got our first glimpse of player housing in the new patch. And no, I'm not joking. TLDR, you get given an apartment in Undermine in patch 11.1. As we all know, player housing has at last been announced for World of Warcraft and will be arriving this year. We are currently alive in the year when player housing will be a thing in WoW. The initial reveal in the Warcraft Direct livestream at the end of last year proclaimed it as a feature of the next expansion, Midnight. But then the 2025 roadmap for WoW shows us that actually it's coming in winter this year, likely significantly before Midnight itself launches, which makes sense for the big evergreen, fundamentally game-altering feature that player housing will have to be. And whereas the glimpse of player housing in Undermine isn't anything like what we would expect a finished player housing product to look like, I think there are definitely some things that we can learn about Blizzard's intentions for how all of this is going to work in Undermine and what kind of track their plans for the implementation and rollout of player housing will follow. So join us as we discuss our shiny new Undermine penthouse apartment and enjoy our first tantalizing taste of player housing in World of Warcraft. Okay, go, 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 go. First up, let's look at the question, because like all of Undermine, it's an absolute chuffing delight. If I'm completely honest, I've never been a huge fan of the whole goblin vibe in WoW. I was never an enthusiastic voice when people hoped for or talked excitedly about a hypothetical Undermine patch. But I have to say that from what I've played on the PTR so far, I have completely changed my mind. I'm not just a bona fide goblin enjoyer now, I legitimately think Undermine is one of the greatest WoW zones ever created, certainly one of the most unique and characterful. A packed-in and built-up steampunky, cyberpunky city creates a crowded and mazily three-dimensional dynamic unlike any other place we've ever had to run around before, and I think that Property Devalued is a great example of that. The questline isn't part of the main campaign, but a side quest that you pick up from a wanted sign that has been nailed over a for rent sign in the street, asking for able-bodied adventurers to work as security for a local apartment complex and in return receive free room and board. An enticing offer if, like me, you dream about player housing like every minute of the day. The quest takes you to the Barrel Bottom Apartments, a grim-looking building crammed with down-on-their-luck gobbos. If you think this place looks bad, you're right. And walk into a conversation between Mama Kiara and the landlord of the establishment, Moz Barrelbottom. Kiara is imploring Moz to stop raising the rents, with Moz insisting, in his own special way, that he has no choice what with all the added protection he has to offer due to the roving local biker gangs. And that if his tenants don't like it, they can move out and he can keep their deposits. Sounds sus. And it is. Upstairs in the penthouse, Kiara tells us that the underrisers, those bikers Moz mentioned, are constantly causing damage around the building that the landlord then blames on his tenants and charges them for. While her adorably tiny sidekick Gabby tells you that goblins who refuse to move out of Barrel Bottom Heights are being kidnapped by the gang. So basically, it looks like we've got some bikers to sort out. We hop into our sick new ride and burn rubber over to the junkyard where the underriders hang out and oh sorry, look, this isn't part of the questing. This is just like a super annoying bug on the PTR right now, where when you leave your car, the camera just starts doing 360s around your character, which can then only be fixed by a reload. But don't worry about that. I'm sure that'll be fixed by the time the patch releases, right? Right? That is assuming someone wrote a bug report about it, because I certainly didn't, because I ain't no snitch, okay? And the Underriders gaff is really cool, full of gang members dicking about on their bikes. I mean, they're trikes really, aren't they? But that doesn't sound so badass. Doing donuts like they're the WoW PTR camera. As you mercilessly murder them and free the captives, you come across a crumpled note, clearly written to the gang, which reads, "The squatters are leaving..." I'm not gonna do the voice. "The squatters are leaving in droves, thanks to you guys. Keep up the good work." And there's more where that came from. Just try not to burn the whole place down. Can't rent out an empty lot. Ha 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 ha. Signed, MB MBB. And you know, that is quite a mystery, isn't it? Who could this mysterious MBB be? This MBB who is working with the overriders to terrorize the residents of Barrel Bottom Apartments and make them leave so that their landlord, Moz Barrelbottom, can keep the deposits and then rent out the rooms again for double the money. Well, I don't know, do I? I'm not hired to work this stuff out. I just hit gobos. That's my business. When we take the note back to Kiara, though, she says she recognizes the signature on it. And it turns out, and please sit down for this, okay, but it was written by none other than Moz Barrelbottom. It was him sending the biker gang out to terrorize his own tenants and make them move out, making him, well, one of the nicer landlords I've ever met, actually, to be honest, but still, he needs to go. Apparently, as soon as we dealt with the underriders in the junkyard, he sent his beautifully mustachioed bodyguard, Jarvis Bonebreaker, into the apartments to go ham on everyone there in a spiteful effort to force the remaining residents out. So we go across the street to Barrelbottom's house, deal with Big Moustache, and knock out the cowering Mozza. A murder-free option that I appreciate. I'd take the deeds and present them to Kiara back home. A happy ending. And you may have even forgotten in all the excitement, but Kiara promised us this very room if we sorted out this mess for her. And you know what? She is true to her word. I'm not doing the accent. I think you've earned that free room, all right, she says. So after they're all settled in Moz's house, they tell us that the place is ours. And ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to our very first official home in World of Warcraft. The absolute swankiest room in Barrel Bottom Apartments. No one can argue. It says it right here. With your name signed in the ledger, you gain full rights to the top floor of the Barrel Bottom Apartments. So if this really is a glimpse of what player housing is going to be like, what is it going to be like? What can you do here? Well, basically, absolutely nothing. It is a room that exists in the game world, and you can, stand in it. Nothing is interactable at all, apart from the Barrel Bottom apartment log, which says, a log of all previous tenants kept by the original landlord. It has been left behind as a memento to the final owner. And that's you. You're the final owner. It then lists your name as the tenant, and maybe most importantly, gives you the option to set your hearthstone here too. So yeah, not exactly a game changer, you know. A room that is yours purely from an RP point of view, which is very nice from an RP point of view. The game recognizes this place as ours, which is awesome, and a Hearthstone location on top are probably more than you were expecting from War Within quests. But to be frank, if this is how player housing launches in midnight, there are going to be riots in the street, and rightfully so. So, obviously not the finished article, but I do think that we can take from the Barrel Bottom apartment some pointers about how Blizzard is planning on implementing this feature later in the year. For one, as most of us have speculated, this is a pre-existing room in the standard game world that you would gain your own phase to rather than, say, a plot of land that you can build on, like in, most famously, Wildstar. Also, it's not a separate area of town with set limited properties to purchase like in Final Fantasy XIV. So if this is a taster for player housing, it's based very much on the Elder Scrolls Online model in that sense. Another clue is that we didn't have to buy this apartment or pay for it in any way. We got given it as part of a quest, which is also the ESO model and suggests that maybe players will have access to multiple and plentiful properties throughout the game and all across the world map, some of which are granted to everyone as standard as part of the campaign like this one, but maybe some of which are tied to achievements or given out as rewards, maybe some of which are meant to be purchased with gold, and so on. And with this in mind, when this feature is introduced later in the year, I wouldn't mind betting that Stormwind and Orgrimmar will be the first two locations available, and that apartments in each will be awarded to players just by completing a quest like this one, depending on their faction. And that list of locations can then be expanded and added to forever. Current locations, Donegal, Belemeth, Gilneas, and Lordaeron have all been set up explicitly to receive new residents in recent times. I wouldn't be surprised if they are amongst the first available. And not to mention locations specific to every expansion in the future. Silvermoon, a main focus in Midnight, is literally being rebuilt and has a major housing program in place, we've been told. It's easy to imagine a new available property being a part of basically every major patch zone in the future, wouldn't it? And even if there are no new locations, there's an essentially never-ending backlog of old locations that Blizzard can go back to and add properties in to buy or to earn. They've just retroactively added a meta achievement to the BFA expansion. I wonder if that could be connected to some properties at some point. So yes, I think our barrel bottom apartment might be a very strong indication for player housing in terms of how you get it and what form it will take. But a very obvious fundamental of any player housing system is its customization, isn't it? Something which barrel bottom is completely lacking. The furniture is cool, but it is set. There's no interaction with anything apart from the logbook, and you certainly can't move anything. You certainly can't swap anything out. And obviously that's because this isn't the World of Warcraft player housing system, is it? It's just a little glimpse into the future. But even then, it's probably worth pointing out that this room is full of things that definitely could be interactable with if Blizzard ever decided to, convert your room in barrel bottom into a fully fledged legit player house location when the feature hits. Items that you would expect to be present and correct in any properly realized WoW player house, like this big storage chest in the corner, which if this were midnight, you totally imagine could be used to access your warband bank. Or this mirror, which in a proper player house could be used to change your transmog, for free I hope, because transmog costs are out of hand. Or even work like a full-on barbershop so you can use it to change your hair and gender. There's this picture on the wall which is lovely, isn't it? Because who doesn't adore Dalaran? But in midnight player housing, you probably expect to be able to click on this and then be able to replace it with another from your vast collection. And look, I know this is probably nothing. I know this is definitely nothing, okay? So don't get pissy with me. But I can't help but notice that as you walk through the apartment, the rug by your bed will disappear as you walk through it. And I know, this is just a PTR bug, but also it can't help but make me think of how a rug would be a very obvious thing that you might want to be able to move or swap out if this room were to be converted to proper player housing later in the year. That's all. It just makes me think that's all. And that's just about it for barrel bottom apartments. It's a small but potentially very illuminating and insightful peek ahead at what might be to come in 2025, and is absolutely fascinating as a result. I have to say, I can't wait to see how badly this video ages when the feature is properly introduced for sure. You might want to bookmark this one so that you can come back and laugh at me in the comments later. Oh, there is just one last thing though, like a little bonus glimpse of the future of player housing perhaps, and that's the Incontinental Hotel, the main player hub for the zone. It's the most obvious place to set your hearthstone in Undermine before you get the apartment. It is, after all, a hotel. And also, the entrance to the raid is literally on the outside wall of the building, so it's incredibly convenient. It's big, and it's initially quite empty, but through the new Raid Renown track coming in 11.1, you can unlock different features in the hotel, like a separate standalone hearthstone for it, crafting stations, transmog and upgrade vendors, an augment rune dispenser, and eventually the T-Rex mech, but I'm trying to keep this on topic. What I'm saying is, when the raid is open, this place is going to be full of guilds gathering before the start of their night's adventures, even more so when your guild have worked together to unlock the features inside. And that's starting to sound an awful lot like guild housing, isn't it? But what do you think? Is barrel bottom apartments really a look forward into our player housing future? What are your opinions on what it suggests that future might look like? How do you think the feature will differ when it eventually arrives this year? And where do you stand on the idea of guild housing as an extra added bonus feature on top? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us, thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. And seriously guys, thank you, because without you, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin and Evertel. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Pirate Software. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evertel. Until next time, cheerio.